Hi, how are
Hi.
you?
Hi there. Right. Okay. All right. Well, I think it's probably time to
start.
kick off. Yep.
Okay. So, hi. Good afternoon, everybody.
Shall I introduce you, Pete?
Well, please, Phil.
Okay. I welcome all the attendees. Hopefully, if more can join us a little later, that's cool. They'll just come in as we start. I'd like to introduce our speaker for the evening, who is Pete van Vuuren. Pete is a lecturer for MBA in IT related operational studies in Auckland, working with both AUT and with Massey universities. He's also lecturing and consulting in South Africa. He is a passionate and energetic presenter, and prior to our lockdown was doing a week about in New Zealand and South Africa. No mean feat. Certainly no mean feat. I think you would agree to be bouncing between those two continents and time zones and still actually being able to deliver something useful. So he is coming to us at the moment all the way from South Africa, and I welcome Pete to you all. Let's see what insights you can provide us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Phil. I'm just going to go onto my slide pack. So the slide pack, guys, just so you know, the slide packs, I have slide packs for discussion, not for presentation, because I know you can read the slides faster than me. But thank you very much, Phil. Like Phil said, I sort of consult and I lecture. So I do operations and IT. I'm an engineer by trade, so I sort of think like an engineer still. I know that sort of counts for me sometimes, but against me quite often. But I'm a academic. I definitely am not just an academic, because especially I think if you're on the IT or the operations field, it's all about processes and new processes. And if you are an academic, you're normally a little bit late, sort of like 3 years or so. And a lot of times we actually need to find out what works. And I often get the question is like, is it practice? Is it theory before practice? And my answer is always, well, to create the theory, you always send your master's and doctoral students to the people that practice it. So it's actually practice before theory. And then it's like basing that theory on future practices. So what I want to do today is really just do a bit of maybe a little bit different. So more about what is happening out there, what must we think about? Because things have changed. You know, the whole world has changed. It's never going to be the same. And in a lot of ways, for the good reasons. I'm just going to go to the next slide. So Phil, that's the slide I swapped. That was my third slide, but it's my second slide. I thought that was a good check-in slide. You know, we all say people, process, technology, but we don't really understand what to do with it. So if I look at a lot of businesses in the world, and if you speak to a lot of managing directors, they say the biggest challenge in their businesses today is to take the power away from their financial directors, even though they were financial directors themselves. And the reason for that is that it was all about effectiveness, efficiency, and then it just became efficiency. Clean the kitchen. Now, cleaning the kitchen, so save money. We are not in business to save money. We are in business to make money. Now, it is very unhealthy to have a dirty kitchen, but yet, if I want to eat, I'm going to have to make omelets. And if I'm going to make omelets, I'm going to have to break some eggs. And I think that's what a lot of businesses are getting to, that point of saying, but you know what, we're saving, but we actually are saving ourselves into bankruptcy. And going back to the people, process, technology, everything in an organization, no matter what you do, no matter where you are, and I always find it interesting, especially when I do the MBA operations management, when you go into operations management, everybody thinks of this plant, a factory. Operations is not about a factory. Operations is about a process. And every single thing in your organization is a process. In that, And that's where I've got the point, people versus technology, is, you know, in a lot of organizations, because we're looking at saving money, we are trying to apply technology to replace people. Now, here's the secret, and you guys are business analysts, so I know you'll know that, and you'll agree with me, is people without technology are going to struggle, but technology without people is going to fail. So if I think I'm going to be able to replace my people with technology, now a research paper published the end of last year, the chief architect for Google, so the vice president of AI at Google, said, if you plan to replace your people with AI, now AI, you know, is just a new name we're using for technology, right? If you're planning to replace your people with AI, plan to fail. And then he said, what has got driverless cars and self-flying planes and all of these things got in common? And it's quite simple. You know, there's replacing all your call centers with robotics. What has it got in common? It's simple, it doesn't work, right? So, so the whole idea is as business analysts, is we have to explain to the business that you use technology to automate what machines do, but you use it to empower what people do if you want to be successful. And you know, I always used to say to people, if you start your conversation in an exco or a steering committee or anything with, we will save money by, or we will make money by, they will listen to you. But I think we must drive the conversations for the future more onto we will make money by, because making money is more difficult than saving money. You know, it's very easy now after a lockdown to go and say, oh, you know what, now let's drop our minimum wage, or let's retrench 20% of our people, you know, just say to everybody we want to survive. Those are easy, simple decisions. You know, it's one difficult meeting, and then I can make it look good. But building stuff is a little bit more challenging, but it lasts so much longer. So that's the one thing. So on that, it's like just something we started talking about actually earlier this year is we are so used to outsource, you know, with cloud services. And now the latest trend is, well, we actually need cloud on the edge, right? So we need hybrid clouds, because I can't give everything to someone else to do. And what we're saying now is outsource your calculations, not your assumptions, right? Because those things that keeps on running, that masses of processing, fantastic things to outsource. But the calculation doesn't create the result. The assumption that I put into the calculation create the result. So, and those assumptions is strategically and tactically what I want to do. So it's just a saying is like, someone else is not going to do it for you. You have to do it. And then, and I think another big trend that we're starting to say is, you know, it's so easy to get one of these big consulting firms in. They've got very clever people. They normally have a really nice process, but we normally bring them in and they come up with a solution and then they leave. We spend millions and millions of dollars on it, and then nothing happens. Where a lot of companies found where they're a lot more successful is they're using their own people, maybe with guidance and tools, right, to come up with the solutions. Because remember, solving a problem is only one side of the coin. Implementing that solution is the other side of the coin. And it's only when I implement that solution that it's actually going to put food on the table. Now, if I bring people in continuously from outside to solve my problems, and I expect my own people to implement the solution, then am I surprised that it's not really working? So again, you know, and I know when I do consulting, I always said my consultants work for you, because if I really want to know what should happen in your organization, I can facilitate what your people know. Okay, you can't have somebody coming from outside telling you what to do. Oh, they can tell you about the techniques and the tools and stuff, but it's your people that's going to do the difference. If you then need people to help you implement, go for it. You know, then you can get people in to help you implement the stuff, and you might not need them forever. Okay. The other thing is, know that the consumer will continue to recreate the markets. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I think catches the world again and again. The consumer has moved on. You know, we goes like, I've got a digital strategy for my business. You know who really has the digital strategy is the consumer. And I can't also just go digital. I mean, we've seen now with the lockdowns all over the world, is that where we thought we had all these online systems working, but we didn't, right? They were almost like as an extra channel or an extra service. Now we're seeing it's like, oh my word, we got the technology, we got the people, but we were trusting the technology to do everything, but it actually doesn't, because technology hasn't got the heart, right? So it can't make those assumptions. And just to give you a simple example, we moved home about 2 years ago, and my son and his mates, which were in their mid-20s, when I packed up my garage, now you can see I'm not in my 20s, so I grew up a little bit different to them, obviously. But when I was packing my tools, so him and two of his mates are helping me, and I have 2 drills. I've got a Black & Decker and I've got a Bosch, and I'm very proud of them, and I've had them forever, you know, and I grew up on a farm as well, you know, these things are important stuff in your life. And I said to them, listen, boys, you know, you're going to have to start thinking, you're sort of growing up now, you're getting into your 20s, you're going to start thinking of investing in these kind of things. And the funniest thing happened, my son said to me, he says, Dad, you don't need a drill. And I said to him, what do you mean? He says, you don't need a drill. He says, you need a hole. And you know what, it was a little bit of a learning moment for me, because you know, he then said to me, how many holes have you made with a drill? I mean, when do you use a drill? If we move home and mom asks you to hang something. So you don't need the drill, you need a hole. So basically their viewers, they'll all buy a cheap drill together, and because they need holes. And it's just like very different way of the consumer thinking. You know, if you think of companies like Nokia, you know, when they almost closed down, their president he was crying on TV, he was saying, listen, we did nothing wrong. And they did nothing wrong for what they decided the world needs. So they made the best product that people don't want. I mean, the BlackBerry story is fairly similar. You know, every person had a BlackBerry, you know, and basically what drove BlackBerry is BBM. They came up with their own communication tool and everything. And at one stage, they became, we own the world, so I can be arrogant. I will tell you what to do. And they decided that people are going to pay for BBM. And you know what? Overnight, the world said, what's up? And the whole brand is gone. So what I'm saying is, if you're not aware about what the consumer does all the time, and to say, I'm coming up with a digital strategy, it's like, no, your consumer has a digital strategy. Is how can I capitalize on that digital strategy? And then this, I love this statement. It says, and that's actually an Albert Einstein statement. One of his colleagues said to him, Albert, you seem to ask people the same questions every year. And he said, yes, but you can ask people the same questions every year. He says, because you're going to learn a lot by how much the answers change. Okay. So again, I mean, if I bring that back to the consumer, because I know what the consumer does today, doesn't mean I still know what the consumer does in a year's time. So you can ask the same questions every year, because your answers is going to be different. Okay. So this is just, guys, just before I continue, anything I use here, I've got that firm belief that as soon as I share something with somebody, they also get it. So any of the reports I use, there's 3 things specifically that I'm going to use. The one is that Essentia report. Now, Essentia report is very much Essentia written, but it's very supportive in what Gartner and Forrester says. And I just thought it's nice. It's especially nice for a business analyst, because it explains how we're using stuff, but we're not optimizing them. We're not getting the value out of it. So that report I can definitely forward to you. It is a public report now. And then I've got another, when I talk about the 10 phases of innovation, it's something that was developed by a guy called Tim Kelly. I've got that on a mind map, so I'm also very, very happy to share that with you. It's just nice because it's not that you have to have all the hats of innovation, but you have to have the 10 phases of innovation. But sometimes I need different kinds of innovation, and then therefore I can either use different tactics if I'm comfortable with it, or I can use different people. And then when I'm going to show you the business analysis tools, right? So this is not going to help you be a business analyst, but this is going to help you if you are a business analyst. Those tools is also we've developed, and they are, so the toolkits are all on a mind map as well, which I'm also very, very happy to give you guys. So let me just continue. So this is just a very interesting question. 80% of success, we always used to say, is just showing up, but no more, right? You can't just show up anymore. It's just not going to work. So the next 2 points really says, the C-suite people, the executives, know that they invest a lot of money in technology. And every time they invest in technology, they know what the technology is going to do. But there's no real stitching through in the organization. So one department might have something really good. Now, whether it's just lack of knowing, lack of sharing, or in some companies, purely corporate politics. I've got something really cool that works for me. I'm not going to make you look good, because that means I'm going to give some of my bonus away. So they're finding a lot of the technologies are like splatters all over the organization. So somebody said, I've got a squatter camp of technology. It says, because no matter how good the individual technologies are, I've got nobody that can actually stitch these things together. And that creates what they call an innovation achievement gap. So in other words, we can all own the same stuff, but it's what we do with it that is going to make me more or less successful. Doesn't mean people that use it all over the show isn't successful. It just means people that can actually stitch all of those things together will be a lot more successful. And then obviously, as it says, they just showing up doesn't guarantee success anymore. So I just want to show you a quick clip. And if you guys know this, luckily you're muted, so you can't say. But this is about building a 30-story building. So the whole idea about this is, and obviously they've now improved it. And the whole challenge about this was to say, I am not going to tell you how to do it. Okay, if you guys are going to be the process owners. So if you're the business analyst, and remember a business analyst, they sometimes say a business analyst works in a bank. The business analyst doesn't work in a bank. Anybody that owns that process, that develops that process, whether it's an engineering process, whether it's a military process, whether it's a financial process, is the business analyst, because that is your business. And basically what they did is they said to people, it's like, don't follow our rules, because it's so easy to say, I know it's going to take about, if I'm effective and efficient, it's going to take me 2 years to build a 30-story hotel. And what they said to them is, don't listen to anything we say, but everything has to be better than what we do it today. And just see what happens. Can you guys hear this? Phil, can you hear this clip?
We can see it, but we can't hear it.
We seem to have a problem with when it's on Zoom. Guys, I will send you this clip. Sorry about this. I will send you the link to the clip. Remember we had with the guys on the MBA group as well, Phil. If you put it in the slideshow, it battles. So guys, I'm just going to try and run this outside of the slideshow and just see if you can see it then. So I'm just going to pause the slideshow. I'm just going to stop sharing it and share the actual clip with you. Guys, I apologize for this. One assume these things always work, but they don't. Every time I go somewhere, it takes, there we go. Just going to do a screen share here, and let's see if it works. Okay. Just have to reshare the screen. And now I can see it. That's crazy. Ah, there we go. All right, can you see that? Phil, can you see it says China?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay, let's try it again. This is crazy.
Looks like it's trying.
Yeah, Phil, I'm just going to let it run and see if I can do that.
Just go back into your sharing screen. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Can you see it?
We can see it. Yes, we can see your screen at the
But still not hear it. Yeah, but still not hear it.
Right.
Okay, Phil, I'm going to drop it. I'm not going to waste you guys' time on it. But basically, what is happening here, right? So I'm just going to share.
We'll go back to the presentation.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm just going to share the presentation again. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, so guys, really what is happening here is they giving it to, and I will send you I will send you the link so you can watch this. I think this is a really nice. It's a really nice, I want to say, almost a sales clip to use to help your business people rethink. So what they did is they took the process people, the business analyst people, and they said to them, it's like, you know what, I want you to do everything better, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. We know how to build hotels. We've been building them for hundreds of years. So don't listen to us, but impress us. They came up with a process where they built that 30-story hotel fully furnished from nothing, right, in 15 days. 15 days, right? And they're now using that all over the States in a lot of the cities where they will build, they sort of like the 15 stories now. They say it's easier because it takes them 5 days if it's not accommodation, and 7 days if it's accommodation, only because of the bathrooms and those kind of things. But that is when you get people to think different, you know. And this doesn't mean it's agile. You know, people always think, and I know a lot of you are involved with projects as well. A lot of people think, oh, agile, and then the business think, oh, you're going to give them a system every month. That's not what agile means. Agile means I'm actually eating the elephant one bite at a time, incredibly well controlled, so that I can get the right functionality. And so it doesn't mean I do things quicker. It just means I do things a lot better. Okay, so let's just go. Sorry about this slide, everybody. So let me just go to the next one. The other thing, of course, is, and that as business analysts, we're going to find all the time, and I'm sure you guys are all aware of it. Thinking is quite a hard thing to do. Now, so they say because it's a high energy activity, the purpose of thinking is to stop thinking. So I quickly want to come up to a solution and then go back into autopilot, which is called mental myopia. Right. So again, you have to sort of guide and drive your user community to actually get what they really want. You know, if I sit with you as a business analyst, I just want to, yeah, now you want everything from me. So I just tell you more or less what I want, and we can sort the rest out. And that is very much because of that mental myopia, because it's like it's hard to think. So just do it. You know? But you don't really know what I want, so you can't just do it. Well, at least I can blame you if it doesn't work, right? So what the latest views as well is to say is we gotta, and I will talk about left and right brain, especially for in the space of business analysis and process development with you a bit later. But what they're saying is we say to people, think out of the box. Okay, the first thing is you got to think, and you got to really think. So it's going to be hard work. But if you want the results, you're going to have to do that. But then one of the tech presenter said the other day. He says this, but I'm saying to you, think out of the box, but I'm governing you into a little box in the box. And when he said that, I went like, don't get it. And then he started saying, look in your organization, look at your governance, what is the legal guidelines? What is the technical environment? What's the technical capabilities that I've got? What is the industry standards? What is the norms? And then he says, but norms is normal. So I'm saying we must think out of the box, but I'm forcing you to think in a box in the box. So to break that through actually takes work, and it takes that understanding of I've got to do things completely different. And then the other thing is, guys, and this is the first thing, is like, so I have to be more innovative, and I have to get my business to be more innovative. So it's really exciting time for business analysts, right? Because the whole world's going to change, and nothing ever is going to be the same again. And I know somebody said to me yesterday, but we were very fortunate in New Zealand. I said, no, you were fortunate. We were definitely fortunate in New Zealand because of leadership and dedication from people. But remember, in your supply chain, you're only one step there. You've got the whole world that you deal with. And the whole world weren't as disciplined or as fortunate, right? So the whole way we interact, the whole way we're doing things are going to change. And that's why I just like this the 10 phases of innovation. We always sort of had innovation as the breakthrough, but innovation doesn't necessarily have to be the big changes, the big difficult changes. It could be the continuous. Kaizen, I can use different phases to Kaizen different kind of things at different stages of a process. Now, this is just the sort of what's the building personas, the learning personas, organizational organizing personas, and that's the sort of those different characteristics. Like you have the different leadership dimensions. This is sort of like the different innovation dimensions. So sometimes I want to be a set designer or a storyteller or a hurdler, but you will most probably have something that you can just fall back to automatically because you like that, and use that. But it's more not just using it, as how to capitalize on it, how to use it best. So that again, guys, I will share that with you because that actually unpacks all of those things. And Phil, if any of these things you guys want a follow-up session where we can actually focus just on that, I will do that with the greatest pleasure. Okay, so what it says is we've got to act like the top 10 or better than the top 10, right? So we adopt technologies that make the organization fast and flexible, get grounded in cloud computing, recognize data as both an asset and a liability. And I will go a little bit more into that with you now. Manage technology and developments well across the enterprise. Now, one of the big technology challenges is what we call our technology debt. I've got all of these hundreds of millions of dollars worth of technology, so I'm forcing myself to use them. But that's not what the future looks like, right? I still have to crunch those numbers, so it also doesn't mean I just have to ignore them. Just throw out all the old mainframes. I still need them. And that's what Gartner calls bimodal. So I have to have my run quite often on a completely different platform than my build. And I have to make sure I've got very seamless integration to that. Manage the technology investment across the enterprise, because another thing that's coming out very strongly is we talk IT, and as soon as I go into engineering, we talk about OT. So I've got huge investments in operational technology that with IoT, I can integrate with my information technology. They quite often use duplicate of the same flavor databases and processes to really help my organization. But again, I must apply that technology to empower the people to do the right things. And then find creative ways to nurture the talent. Now, that we still have a bit of a challenge with that, because quite often we want people that are qualified, we want people that have got skills. And then as soon as they're part of the team, then we stop them from doing what we hired them to do. So I want people that's got innovation and that's got energy and drive. And then as soon as they work for me, I tell them to sit still and do what I tell them. So it's letting that nature run. Now, again, in a lot of countries, people say, it's easier to do nothing, you'll be safer, than making a mistake. We have to let people make some mistakes, not keep on making the same mistakes, but if we actually want them to be successful. Just about that, guys, I'm not going to go back to the slide, but one of the things I just wanted to say to you that I also found incredibly interesting with the 10 phases of innovation is, we all know Jack Welch passed away, I think earlier this year. And they had a whole webinar about him, and one of the people that was on the webinar is Rosebeth Moss-Cantor. So she's head of strategy and leadership at Harvard Business School. And somebody was saying he was this guru and everything. And she asked him an interesting question. She said, do you admire the story about Jack Welch, or do you admire Jack Welch's stories? And then they actually unpacked his life. You know, he wrote really good stories, but he was effective for a very, very effective for a very certain time in the history of the industry, okay? So his first 5 years that he was at General Electric, he made all the changes, but the market was there, the economy was there, it was very much a carrot and stick kind of scenario. What he then left behind is something that unraveled later because it didn't work 10 years later or 15 years later. So, and why I'm saying that is, you know, we all admired Covey and Mintzberg and all of these kind of guys, but don't use the wrong book. You know, if I use a good to great book now, it's not what my organization needs now. It really isn't. I must rather go and get one of the pink books rather than a Collins book. Not that Collins isn't a brilliant person, but if I take good to great, that book's 20 years old. So I'm trying to do changes that was appropriate for the environment 20 years ago. And again, it's just not going to work, right? Okay. So I'm just keep on having to move the faces away so I can see you guys. I can see the slide. So winning innovation, also you've got to go the distance. It's not quick fixes, right? It's not, innovation isn't, let's quickly retrench 20 people and get a bonus this year. Innovation is what processes am I building for the future? Where am I going to capitalize on the consumer? What is the new things I want to invent? How do I use my people and technology together? And guys, I have to think, right? And I have to get my business process owners and my subject matter experts to think. Again, a really interesting thing that happened about 2 years ago is there's somebody, we were looking at processes and analysis and stuff, and somebody said, you know, quite often your biggest problem going forward in your organization could be your business process, or not your business process owner, your subject matter expert. And again, you go like, I wonder why? And it's like, because they've been there for 30 years, they've always done it like that, the business has always made money. Now, who are you to come and change it? So quite often they siphon this innovation. So the other thing, never surrender, embrace the mental game, and create coaches. Okay. So moving forward then is, so, and again, guys, you're getting all of this stuff in detail, so if you want to know what it is. But break through the cloud ceiling. A lot of people think cloud is the answer. Cloud's not the answer, cloud's the beginning. You know, IoT, people go, oh, IoT. It's like, well, IoT is actually, what does Internet of Things mean? It means I'm using the things on the internet, isn't it? So it's not like an ingenious product. It's just using stuff that's there. The same thing with the cloud. You know, we used the cloud initially to explain outsourcing, but we're way past the outsourcing model. We're in a smart sourcing model. So of course I want to outsource some stuff. And that's why people like Forrester is now saying, you know, cloud on the edge and hybrid cloud. It just means, you know, some stuff I want to outsource and some stuff I want to do myself. And the other thing is we have to stop replacing ERP systems, guys. You know, going from SAP to JD Edwards to Sage to Microsoft Dynamics is just gonna let me hate the next ERP system. It's like empowering people to use those things properly and going and say, what do I need for the future? Because an ERP system will only bring efficiencies in my organization. What do I need for the future to make that successful? And those are the kind of things we've got to do, right? So you can see again, it's just like, I've got to be boundaryless. So designed for disruption. Now, guys, disruption is also a word that a lot of people don't understand. You know, I hear this word disruptive technologies, disruptive technologies. Technologies aren't disruptive at all. It's processes that's disruptive. You know, and why I say that is because to get a process to work, I need people and technology. So if I want a process to be disruptive, I need people and technology to make it disruptive. The technology on its own is not going to make it disruptive. You know, and you hear the Uber story again and again, and there's disruptive technology, and it's like, it's not at all. Uber is a brilliant business idea, but it was their third try. You know, the first try they bought 20 S-Class Mercedes-Benzes in San Francisco, and they thought they're going to make a lot of money with fancy taxis, and it didn't work. They then had a system that, the stories that went around with the hundreds of millions of dollars it cost them to write the Uber system, which is nonsense. I mean, you can see they're using PayPal and Google Maps. So again, they try to do something with maybe they can create an app that people will buy. And then the perfect storm happened, that the economic crisis happened, and they basically followed the example of Airbnb. So what Airbnb's whole philosophy was, guys, you know, we're going through difficult times. If you've got a room empty in your house, maybe you want somebody to stay there. Uber followed the same trend and said, you've got a car, you've got to drive to work and back. Maybe you can give somebody a lift. At least they help pay your fuel. And they then made that a successful business, obviously. But that's not because of disruptive technology. It's because they're using people's ideas and technology and a situation to come up with a process that works. It's got to be adaptable. So again, I can't go and put something in there. And guys, you know, it says let data be the captain. I mean, we laughed, we really laughed, but it's actually scary when you think about it. So at the Massey, when we did the MBA, everybody's on lockdown. So it's like the first time we Zoom lecturing and stuff. So there's 3 of the people in China is stuck in China. Somebody in New Catalonia is stuck in there. I'm teaching from South Africa. There was one person, I think, stuck in London. So it just became like actually quite nice because we had 35 people all in the same situation. But we started talking about the data, and this one guy from China, he said, if you're not Chinese, you can only have 3 children. And we're all like, what? He says, yes, because, I mean, you can look at the data. He says every 4th child born in the world is Chinese. And if you can't speak or understand Chinese, you can't have the 4th child. And what he was doing, he was actually just being funny. But it was so scary because he then said, guys, remember that 80% of your decisions in business is made on 20% of the data. So how many of those kind of decisions are you making? Then all of a sudden his joke was not so funny anymore. But I just thought it was really cool to say that. It says, but so you got to look at the data in context. And then you have to have a radical human. So you have to do human technology augmentation. Guys, people go AI and everybody thinks it's something new. AI is, I think, 70 years old this year. RPA is robotic process automation. That's what Business Analysts has done forever. They automate processes, you know. Why somebody is robotics if it's a machine and it's a bot if it's software. So it's new words, but what it does, it gives focus back on using technology and people to develop processes. So if your business says, should I go AI? It's like, yes, because it's not to do with the AI. It's not got to do with we have to relook at our processes so that we can make money out of it. Now, guys, I've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to just quickly go left and right brain because, again, hopefully this will help you. So we all know that your right brain is parallel processing and your left brain is serial processing. Left brain or right brain, the answer is simple, yes. You've got a left brain and a right brain, and they work really well together. Now, some of us don't even know we're jumping between the left brain and right brain because you were always told to be a left brainer. You sort of almost try and unlearn your right brain functionality. And about 20 years ago, there was a psychologist that said, oh, that's what the right brain and the left brain do. And we started putting people in boxes again. I mean, the latest research says, oh, you might like this or you might like that, but you will use both. So know that and use both. And that is actually what created design thinking. So again, design thinking, we all as engineers and IT people and business analysis and finance accountants and stuff, we all know what systems thinking is. We all know we have to do all of those things. Now, what they're saying is, so we have to use the creative part of the mind as well. The truth is, the more I use my creative part of my mind, the more I have to use my linear part of my mind. So because I think more creatively, so I use my right brain more, doesn't mean I'm going to use my left brain less. It means I'm going to use my left brain more. And that's the whole focus with design thinking. And it was actually Mintzberg in about 2003 that came up and he made the statement saying, you know, you've got a right brain and a left brain because they work really well together. And that drove the actual name design thinking came from UNC, University of North Carolina. And then the processes sort of were developed about, you know, really about what is design thinking. I've got to ask what is, what if, what was, what works. Underneath that is not a methodology. Underneath that is a philosophy, okay? Now, what I find work really well in process, and this is very much for a business process. So I'm going, it's like for a business analyst toolkit, let's say what tools are there that we actually know anyway, and if you don't know, I'm going to give them to you anyway, to make sure that I do this properly. So the first thing is, if I want to look at a process, is I've got to look at the strategic dimension. So in other words, I'm saying what is there. I feel it, I live it. Then in that, I've got to see what works. Now, what works doesn't mean it worked 10 years ago. It means it works now. And then what doesn't work or what doesn't work anymore. And remember, one of the biggest doesn't works is if there's an innovation or an initiative that I'm not doing. Then to come up with, I have to now start being innovative. The first thing I actually need to do to give me the tools for that is a SWOT. But guys, a SWOT, and again, you will see in the tool, a SWOT's not putting 4 pieces of paper on, one with a S, a W, O, and a T. Because that's just the first layer. You actually have to take people through that first layer to actually come up with some real good stuff. So there's a lot of questions you've got to ask in a SWOT. A SWOT is not a simple thing. It's a very intriguing thing because you have to, if you look at a strength, you have to look at everything in your organization. If you look at weakness, everything in your organization, opportunities and threats, everything outside of your organization. So again, all those criteria are defined in that toolkit. And the reason I do a SWOT is so that I can do a stop, start, continue. Quite often, people say, here's my SWOT. I said, I don't care about your SWOT. I know you most probably did a really good job there, but please show me your stop, start, continue, because otherwise I don't know why you did the SWOT. Then innovation, and now with the what if is now I'm thinking of it. What can I do? So there, I've got to be innovative. I've got the bonus 6 thinking hats there. The 5 whiskeys in the hotel. I always say it's 5 whiskeys in the hotel because then I never forget it. And the 5 whiskeys in the hotel is asking the questions: what, where, when, why, and who. And then the other side of my coin, which is the implementation side, is the hotel, which is normally the how am I going to do it. My 6 M's is like my machines, my milieu, my materials, all of that stuff I need. Then Porter's 5 forces. Again, that's quite a nice thing to look at how things affect me. Then I have to be able to look at that process and do a proper flow chart. And when I do a flow chart, I am not in design thinking. I am purely in systems thinking. Okay. When I do my network chart, as again, that network chart defines my business. And quite often people say to me, but that's a supply chain or that's a value chain. It's like, well, my business network becomes my supply chain. And if I look at who does it, it's my supply chain. And if I look at what they do, it's my value chain. Because they say, no, but is the value chain and the supply chain the same? It's like, well, why would somebody be on your supply chain if they don't create value? And how can somebody create value if they're not on your supply chain? So I might look at different things, but it's the same kind of environments, right? Then the scamper, pestle, and then coming up with a business case. So guys, those are tools. And again, I'm not going to go through the tools, but they're on the slides. And as I say, I'm very, very happy to give you the toolkits for that. I've got this thing, input, process, output. But we all know everything is input, process, output. If I talk IT or process, if I talk operations, it's input, transformation, output. The thing is that people don't realize is if I put garbage in, I'm going to get garbage out. And that's why we got the other O and I in. So input, process, output, fine. I got something, I did something with it, and I'm passing it to somebody. But so what, right? So what is going to be my outcome? What does people do different because I've changed that process? And then what is the impact of that? Is that impact that I'm making money? Is that impact that I can develop more businesses? So if that impact isn't what I want from my innovation, then why am I doing the input, process, output? Then obviously, as you know, come up with a business case, then do your project justification and charter. Then the project management, what I've got in the project management is really all the different kinds of project management. So the project charter on the tool will, after the business case, will just show you what a business case is. And up to there, to me, that's still the business process owner that owns it. Then to get the project justification, to get your space on the project charter, what you need to do, on the project radar, what to do, and then your charter. And then all the different kinds of project management. So what is the difference between all the different kinds of project management, and what is Agile really? Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding on Agile. And then the development, what I've done in the development toolkit for a business analyst, assuming that a business analyst is a business person and not a IT person, is what are all of those development cycles? So what are all the different development methodologies, and what do you have to look at? You know, how does it flow under Agile? How does it flow under Waterfall? How does it flow under Big Bang? Again, as a business analyst, you're not going to have to program, but you have to know what the programmers are going to do, just to help you. And then I think two things. Now this comes to the crust of why am I doing this? Is I will only ever get the value. You know, sometimes we think the project is implemented, so my process is implemented. My process isn't implemented. It's only my project that's implemented. Then as a business process owner, I then have to go and make my change, not my change management, and this is how my system works. My change as in my consumer, what is different, so that I can get my consumers on board. My people, so that they know how to sell things different, how to do things different. And that's why I think something like that Kotler's 8-step change model is great, because it doesn't just work for applications, it works for everything. And then measure and strategy, and that's my last thing, guys, and then I'm going to just go to the last slide. My measurement, strategy, and tools, again, you know, as soon as you go measurement, they go, yeah, well, Six Sigma and all of these things, and those are fantastic tools. But is that really what you need? If you've just came up with an innovation from a business perspective and you want to see if it works, you don't need Six Sigma. You need Six Sigma if you want to improve your processes. So quite often people go Six Sigma, they get consultants in and they do all of this work and the calculations, and everybody's confused and nothing really changes. It all looks cool, but it doesn't really make a difference. So the other thing I think that is really, really important for you as a business analyst is to make sure that that business process owner has got the right tools to start measuring. In other words, if I say I want to make money by this, what I want to measure is how much money I make by that. So that output and impact, how much money does it actually give me? My change model, I don't just want to know that everybody used the system. I want to use that the consumer interacts with that process correctly. Okay. So guys, this is just these slides. I'm just unpacking those things a little bit. And so as I say, and that's the last thing I will. Yeah, we also don't have the money. So that is just the tools, guys. So I'm just going to stop sharing this so that we can actually talk again. Sorry, I went 5 minutes over my time, which isn't good. But I just wanted to sort of, as I say, have a check-in with me, meet you guys, and hopefully with the tools and the documents and stuff that I can give you, will give you some tools to work with. But for that, please open, and it was fantastic to spend some time with you, and I really hope that you guys got some value out of this.
I'm sure we have a peek. There was a lot that you put in there, and you've offered us paths to further study, which once we release your the deck you've got, I'm sure there will be other opportunities for learning that people can go in there, and if there's a particular level that they want to hit, they can do further study on it. It would be good to see if there are any initial questions from the floor or feedback, anything. Open forum for people to turn their mic on and ask questions if they wish.
In fact, I thought I would just kind of put forward my feedback, not too much a question. And I must say, thank you very much, Pete, for the presentation, and I really enjoyed it. And it made me realize maybe at some point I need to go back to university again.
Or not, Kevin.
Well,
you know, Kevin, you know what? I think one of the biggest myths is we teach people the theory, but the value lies in the practical side.
Yes.
So for me, one of the most important things is that executive education. So to go back and do a master's or a PhD in operations or IT is not going to make the difference. Is to say, Pete, we need to know more on the practical space about how does Porter's 8 forces really work. And we have a session like this and we just discuss Porter. And that you can take that Porter back. Because remember, as a business analyst, I give you all these tools, but there's no ways in the world that you're going to use all of them. Well, you might use it one step of this, one step of another one, because it's very situational. And Kevin, and I think a lot of times people don't understand that, it's like having the qualification only gives you a ticket into the stadium. It doesn't make you play the game successfully,
That's a good analogy.
And one of the things what Ted wants me to do at Massey is he said, let's start having this industry things going, because also, if I said to you guys, you think, it's interesting, okay, bye. But the space I'm working in, I'd like you guys to drive it as well. I don't mind having a monthly session with you. It might not be your normal monthly sessions where you've got cool oaks from the industry, but to say, let's have academic sessions and let's actually get these things and see how it works and see the success. And then also get the feedback, because for me, it's important for Kevin to say to me, you know what, right now, right here, a scamper doesn't actually work. Or a pestle. I mean, a pestle in New Zealand, the first thing is political environment. Now, New Zealand's got a very, very stable political environment. So to even spend the time on the political space is like, why, right? But if I'm in other countries, I spend most of my time on the political environment because that's what makes it work or not. Okay, but it's a great pleasure, Kevin, and I'm glad that you got some value out of it.
Yeah, thank you again. By the way, a number of concepts are quite new to me, and I certainly like the idea of having a chance to kind of look at the slide in some of the concepts a bit further and potentially do a bit more study. So I definitely appreciate additional material that you might be able to share with us further down the line. Thanks again.
And Kevin, remember, our relationship today started, it didn't finish.
I like that.
Okay, so you know what Phil said to me as well is he doesn't want me to come and say something and go. If I want to be prepared to be of value, then I actually have to keep engaging. That's if I understood Phil right, but I think I did.
Indeed, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, anyone else with questions?
It's Paul, yeah. Just to pick up on the last conversation, and definitely, I think, Pete, if you let me have some of that material, when I push out the video recording in the next few days, I can put that somewhere where people can access it.
Okay.
And if you want me to share your contact details, I certainly
100%. Yes,
I can continue that relationship that they're talking about. It's interesting talking about the practical experience of techniques, because I've been thinking one of the things that would be interesting to do in New Zealand is some technique sessions like this. It'd be interesting just to maybe do some with you on that, to take that a step further, and even Phil can run it with you if he wants to. But yeah, thanks for that.
Paul, with pleasure. Because again, you look at all of these tools, but knowing how to use them properly and what to use when is really important, because that's where the success lies. For the rest is theory. But how do you actually make it work? How does it give you the value? Is a little bit looking at it from a different side. And also remember, we want to build philosophies. We don't want to build methodologies, right? A lot of people think lean is a methodology. Lean isn't a methodology. Lean is a philosophy. It means I'll change my culture in my organization. So that's really what we want to do.
That's really, really good. Thank you, Pete. Okay.
Thanks, Phil.
I appreciate the time, and thank you, audience, for turning up. As Paul says, we will share share the details once Pete sends them through, and we'll see where we can go from there, particularly if those who are on the call, or potentially even those who have watched the video afterwards, are able to perhaps feedback on items that were of particular appeal. You know, it may show us a guide as to where we might put some more effort in, as opposed to randomly picking one of the 5 or 6 items that are there. So if you give us the feedback on you're intrigued by this path, or you've used this but you'd like to be talking more about it in the future potentially, then all that feedback is good, and it can guide us as to where we might go from there. Okay, any last comments from the audience at all?
Phil, if I may just quickly, just something else. If you, Paul said he's going to share my contact details. You guys are welcome, if you want, to send me your details, right? So I'm Dane Scott. I work at the FCMG. I'm busy looking at customer engagement. That's it. Because then, as I work in my consulting space, and you get all this different, the research and stuff, whether it's AR operations or whatever projects, it comes from different business cases. If I then see something that's particular to you, so I see something from Premier, and I know Dana's busy with it, then instead of spamming everybody, I can give you a little bit more focused stuff as we go along, just as a add-on. I think might be quite nice, Phil.
That's good. And eventually we'll see you in the flesh.
Definitely. As soon as I can get back there, yes.
Right. Okay.
Okay.